Between the stimulus of emotion and the response of action lies the sacred space where wisdom is born and character is forged. And that is the thought for today. Welcome to 7 Good Minutes. I'm Clyde Lee Dennis. Thanks for joining me for what I believe will be 7 of the most enriching minutes of your day. In today's episode of 7 Good Minutes, we talk about unlocking self-mastery and developing your emotional intelligence. Enjoy. There's a quiet revolution happening in the most successful and fulfilled people around us. It's not about having the highest IQ or the most technical skills. It's about something far more profound and transformative. The ability to understand, navigate, and master the complex landscape of human emotion. This is emotional intelligence, and it may be the most important skill you never learned in school. By the end of this episode, you'll understand how developing emotional intelligence becomes your pathway to true self-mastery and deeper, more meaningful relationships with yourself and others. Emotional intelligence isn't about suppressing your feelings or always staying calm. It's about developing a sophisticated relationship with the full spectrum of human emotion, both your own and others. It's the difference between being controlled by your emotions and being informed by them. When you develop emotional intelligence, you transform from someone who reacts to life into someone who responds with wisdom and intention. Consider the last time you felt overwhelmed by anger, frustration, or disappointment. In that moment, your emotional state likely determined your actions, your words, and ultimately, your outcomes. Now imagine having the ability to pause in that same situation, to recognize what you're feeling, understand why you're feeling it, and choose your response from a place of clarity rather than reactivity. This is the power of emotional intelligence in action. The journey toward emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness, the foundation upon which all other emotional skills are built. Self-awareness means developing the ability to observe your emotional states as they arise, without immediately being swept away by them. It's like becoming a compassionate scientist of your own inner world, curious about your patterns, triggers, and responses. Think of Maria, a project manager who used to explode in frustration whenever deadlines were threatened. Through developing emotional intelligence, she learned to recognize the early warning signs of her frustration, the tightness in her chest, the quickening of her thoughts, the urge to blame others. Instead of being hijacked by these feelings, she learned to pause, breathe, and ask herself what this emotion was trying to tell her. Often, her frustration was signaling that she needed to communicate more clearly about expectations or advocate for additional resources. Her emotional intelligence transformed her from a reactive manager into an inspiring leader. The second pillar of emotional intelligence is self-regulation, the ability to manage your emotional responses in ways that serve your highest good and the good of those around you. This doesn't mean becoming emotionally numb or fake. It means developing the skill to feel your emotions fully, while choosing how to express them constructively. Self-regulation is like being the conductor of your own emotional orchestra. You don't silence the instruments. You learn to create harmony from all the different sounds. When disappointment arises, you feel it completely, but you don't let it dictate your actions for the next week. When excitement bubbles up, you enjoy it without making impulsive decisions you might regret later. The third element is empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. Empathy is what transforms you from someone who simply manages their own emotions into someone who can navigate the complex emotional dynamics of relationships, teams, and communities. When you develop empathy, you begin to see that everyone around you is fighting battles you know nothing about, carrying hopes and fears that shape their every interaction. Empathy doesn't mean absorbing everyone else's emotions or losing yourself in their experiences. It means developing the capacity to understand others' perspectives while maintaining your own emotional center. This skill alone can transform your relationships, your leadership abilities, and your capacity to contribute meaningfully to the world around you. The fourth pillar is social skills, the ability to use your emotional intelligence to build bridges, resolve conflicts, and inspire positive change in others. When you combine self-awareness, self-regulation, and empathy with strong social skills, you become someone others naturally turn to for guidance, support, and collaboration. Developing emotional intelligence is not a destination, but a lifelong practice. It requires patience with yourself as you learn to recognize patterns that may have been unconscious for years. It demands courage to feel emotions you might have been avoiding, and wisdom to know when to act and when to simply observe. Start small. Begin by simply naming your emotions as they arise. Instead of saying, "I feel bad," try to identify whether you're feeling disappointed, frustrated, worried, or something else entirely. Each emotion carries different information and calls for different responses. The more precisely you can identify what you're feeling, the more skillfully you can work with those feelings. Practice the pause. When you notice a strong emotional reaction arising, give yourself the gift of a few conscious breaths before responding. In that space between stimulus and response lies your power to choose. This simple practice can prevent countless regrets and open doors to responses you never knew were possible. Your emotional intelligence is not fixed. Like any skill, it grows stronger with practice and attention. As you develop this capacity, you'll find that life becomes less about surviving your emotions and more about learning from them, being guided by them, and using them as fuel for a more authentic and purposeful existence. That does it for today's episode of 7 Good Minutes. Please take a moment to rate and review the show on the platform you're listening on. Until next time, let's be civil to one another out there. Thanks for listening.